I might have actually done some genetic work actually for the fish and stuff. I'm not exactly sure, but basically, the fish were always attracted to the human settlements or the animal settlements because, like I say, a cow would cows and people would eat food, and then they would go poo, and the poo would get in the water, and or we'd put the poo in the water, and the poo would be washed out to sea. And basically it'd go out to sea and then it would sink down, or the water would churn it up basically, and the salt and stuff. And basically the fish would come along and go, and they would eat the poo. Fish eat poop, basically. Cow poo, human poo, just about any kind of nutrients. Their body ingests it, and they eat it. So from my slate quarries and everything else, the human poo and the different runoff from the nutrients and stuff like that would flow into the water and flow out the thing, and the fish like you look in the old days, and you would see we had like 1/3 poop going into this fish tank, and the fish would go and eat the poo from the people, and they'd grow big and strong. I mean, when we put sewage, a little bit of sewage into a lot of water and a little bit of sewage, basically going down into this channel, and we had this big fish tank in there, and there's all these fish in there, and basically it was poop that was directed into there, like horse poo and some human poo and some other stuff would flow into this big huge tank. It was like a half-mile wide or a couple hundred feet wide by a couple thousand feet long. Or 600 feet long, and basically the sewage and water would go into there, and the fish would come up to the surface and have a nice little feeding frenzy. And we had like 10,000 fish in there, and they would just live in there happily, and we'd just reach in and grab them and pull them out, dip them in the water, kind of rinse them off a little bit, and then pull them back up and put them on the shore, and they basically ate we tried to sift it out from the because they didn't like the urine, of course, but they liked the poo. So we had a sifter system for the sewage, basically to screen out the solids from the liquid, and some of the solids would go inside this big tank, and the fish would go and eat it. And we had this great big huge tank, like 200 feet wide or 300 feet wide by about 1,000 feet long, and there was like couple 100,000 fish in there, and they'd go and eat all the poo, and then they'd grow big and strong, like I say, and then we'd pull them out, and it was our fish farm right there in Bellfast. It's still there, of course. We don't use it anymore because the fish got out, and that's why fish go up streams and stuff like that, going after the poo. But yeah, it was a while ago when we noticed the fish seemed to crowd around the human settlements. And it's like, well, they're crowding around us, so we just throw our nets out there and we pick them up because they live off of the sewage, and stuff like that. It's like, oh yeah. So anyways, so there's freshwater fish and saltwater fish, and they're basically all the same. It's just that and they all eat the nutrients, the kelp and the poo and everything else, or it's a big circle of life thing going on out there. Anyway, we nursed it and basically helped it along, and got the fish and everything, and they eat the algae and the different things and the poo and everything else, and it all gets, and then they grow big and strong, and the crabs eat stuff, by sucking it in and putting it out, and they eat the little particles, and they're eating the little bacteria and the little particles and the poo and stuff like that. Mostly, basically, just human poo and stuff like that. Like we poop. It goes into the water, goes out to the ocean, the fish eat it, or the algae eats it, and then they live off the nutrients, and then they grow big and strong, and then we eat them. There used to be a big fish farm big crab farm, and I think a oyster farm over in Belfast. Like I said, it was my great big huge old rock quarry, and the water used to be a lot deeper, and it used to come off the mountain, and then it would go into my tanks. I used to have a big fish tank there, they just channeled it out, blasted it out, and dug this big channel in there, and we put fish and poop in there, and then that's how we did it, and then it would run off and run down the mountain some more and go through some more mills and stuff. But the whole Belfast area was basically one big citadel, they called it. We also did saddles and meat and stuff like that. You know, and we brought up fertilizer and used fertilizer and stuff like that. You know, mixed it with the, we're going to ground up stuff and then mix it with poop and stuff like that. And then that turns it into growable material, you know, cow poo and human poo and a couple other nutrients. And that turned it into basically farmable material. You know, fertilizer, and then the plants would grow in it. And slowly we turned rock into basically farmable farmland by blasting and stuff like that. So anyway, it was a couple of 1,000-year project, you know, and then eventually the water rose. You know, we added more water. I think I did. I paid for it, or I did it. You know, basically, Lusifer Star, LS Slate and LC Slate. That's what I was, and yeah, it was pretty popular and everything else like that. And people loved me because, like I said, I would, if a scam artist came by and stole all their money or their metal, you know, I'd be like, well, I'll loan it to you, and then you can pay me back. And like I said, usually I'd give them, I'd loan them like enough slate to build one house, and then they would want to build a barn or something like that, or another building, and they'd be like, well, we'll pay you double. And it's like, oh, okay. You know, and like I said, eventually I had my own mines and everything else like that, so my own mining camps, you know, digging, you know, rock cutting camps. I used to call them rock cutting camps back then. And anyway, so the fish farms and everything else, you know, we would farm our own land and harvest our own fish from the fish farms, you know, which was basically the sewage that would come off the mountain from the cow pastures and everything else like that. It would get all mixed up, you know, and get some debris in there, and they would wash into, and then the fish would. Anyway, and that's, you know, and that was Bellfast. Bellfast was quite a little town, you know. It was all basically self-contained and everything else like that. It had its own defense systems on the front of it. You know, the water flooded them all, and there used to be a big old valley down in there and stuff like that. And it was quite a place. Anyway, and a bunch of mines and mining and stuff like that.